Thanks to have you guys. I want to talk to Jarrett first a little bit about himself and his role. But why don't you just tell us all, what are your key responsibilities in your role? What areas of the business, marketing, operations? What does that look like on a day-to-day?
Resident is a house of brands in the direct-to-consumer mattress space, so bed in a box, the ones that gets folded up and shipped to you. There are some that are flat-packed. That's too much mattress jargon, but they're not rolled up, put it that way. We were recently acquired by Ashley Furniture in March of last year, so my responsibilities have morphed a little bit. At Resident, I'm responsible for acquisition, our CRM, and our creative operations and optimizations. That does not mean that the creative team reports into us, or into me rather, or my team. It means that I am tasked with making sure that my channel managers have the creative they need and the formats they need and the velocity that they need. The other side of that is what I do for Ashley now. So for Ashley, we built an internal direct marketing agency that took over a spend that Ashley was spending with agencies. So that has been since late July. And shortly, we'll be doing the same things with respect to taking over CRM, data, technology, and a few other areas of that business.
I mean, it's clear you must have been doing a good job if Ashley acquired you guys and then gave you the run of their marketing team.
Yeah, I would think so, for sure.
Nice. Well, before we jump over to the Ashley side of things, I mean, Resident's newer than the incumbents like Casper and Purple, but has now grown bigger in market share. Like, what's led to that success?
So when I think about, even to this day, when I tell people what I do, they say, "Oh, so you're Casper or Purple." It's fine. Like, it doesn't bother me. But it's a good difference is that they built brands, and I don't know, how closely you follow the mattress space. Probably not that closely, but they are not doing so hot, either of those companies. We, on the other hand, built a business and are trying to, I don't want to say build a brand, because the amount of money that we spend and really focus on direct response and unit economics and metrics as opposed to building a brand, every contact is a brand opportunity. So we started by focusing with people in market for mattresses and going the other way, as opposed to building a brand and going the other way. And the results just speak for themselves. Now, we were definitely the right place, right time when COVID happened. Our business exploded. I think it took us about 12 hours to understand what was going on with media in the market and how CPMs and CPCs really dropped. And that's when we really just started spending crazy and have never stopped since. And, our market share has gone up, and every direct competitor like that, their market share has largely gone down.
Yeah. And I've heard you mention this before, but you say that selling mattresses is like a zero-sum game, right? So either you win or your competitor wins. They're not usually going to buy two different mattresses at the same time. So and you've said that to combat that, you guys try to be everywhere. What does that marketing mix look like? What channels do you prioritize?
So when people are searching for a mattress, you're usually not going to see them for another 5 to 10 years unless they have a good experience and they need another mattress for another room, another house, or buying it for someone else, which is an odd gift, but sometimes it happens. So, we do a good job of conquesting, but we're set up well for that. We really understand the metrics of our business, and we have a very value-based product. Think about the opposite of that. If you are more expensive and have slightly worse or even equal, ratings and reviews, it's hard to get conquested if you are the one that they're trying to conquest. So for us, we are very good at conquesting other brands because of our product. The worst thing for a bad product is good marketing. So our product is good. It has to start with that. Now, the other thing that we're always in tune with is it's great to have a plan, and sometimes you miss that plan. I'm sure everyone in this room has missed a plan at some point in time. But as long as you are doing better than your competition, then that's fine. And those are the things that we always key on. And like you're saying, it's a zero-sum game. If someone's buying a mattress from me, the chances are they're not going to buy it from one of my competitors, and they're buying it from a competitor. Probably not going to buy it from me, at least in the near term. So that's what really we focus on.
Yeah, I like how you're selling the quality even up here.
Who needs a mattress? Who needs a mattress? Oh, I'm a mattress salesman. Come on.
Yeah. Okay, so with sales like that and like a 5-year kind of time frame, how do you guys focus on lifetime value or increasing that across your customers?
The name of the game for us is selling mattresses. At that point in time, we employ a lot of upsell techniques, a lot of cross-sell techniques, a lot of follow-ups to make sure that we can drive that lifetime value when the person is in the moment and purchasing. But we are getting to the point where we're a 7-year-old company where people will start to buy mattresses again. But the focus for us, it would be great if I could communicate with everyone that's bought a mattress for us via email and SMS, because via email mostly, SMS is kind of expensive. But trying to focus on that audience and activate those audiences on platforms is expensive because they're small, so you're going to pay very high CPMs. So for us, we really do want to drive that mattress purchase, and it would be nice to drive lifetime value on top of that, and we do, but the focus is absolutely turning people that are in the market for a mattress into first-time customers.
Awesome. So then let's shift a little bit. You mentioned that you guys were acquired by Ashley Furniture. How has that influenced your marketing strategy? What's changed? What's different between how you work on one brand versus the other?
Yeah, it's a whole different world. Resident has, even though there's 5 or 6 brands, it's probably, I don't know, a couple hundred SKUs max between mattresses, bed frames, sheets, bedding, stuff like that. Ashley has tens of thousands. With Resident, our brands are in retail stores, a couple thousand of them. They're not our stores. So we don't have the ability to really try and prove out the impact of online spend to offline purchases in third-party retailers, even though there are products. Ashley's the flip side of that. So with Ashley, there's about 800 stores or so now where we can really understand the impact of the media that we're buying online and what's happening to someone in store. Not only are they purchasing the product you advertised, but what else are they purchasing? What's going into that basket? How are the sales associates interacting with those people? So it's a very, very different ballgame. It's much more complex and much different philosophically. With Resident, we don't have budgets. We have a performance target. I can spend as much money as I can or as little money as I want in order to hit that target. Ashley is a more traditional budget-based buyer. So it's really trying to understand those budgets, when to spend them, and really try to come as close as possible as hitting those budgets.
Okay. I think a lot of salespeople got happy when you said the budgets can just go up and up.
Yep. That's why I'm popular at these events.
Tell me about, I guess, the attribution then, because it sounds like for Ashley, maybe the attribution might be a little bit different. I guess there you have a little bit more freedom to focus on lifetime value, but also like what matters, or is there a difference in target or goal?
There's definitely a much bigger lifetime value component to the Ashley business for sure. With respect to attribution, we have to differentiate now. So Resident, we build a lot of our own tools. So we've built our own attribution tools, our own marketing mix modeling, a lot of models that will run on our site to understand is someone predisposed to buying online or buying in a store. A lot of different techniques, a lot of different models that we built. With Ashley, we are in the process of doing that, but there are complexities to some of the media mix and how that impacts those channels. Like, for instance, Resident, we are not very big on impression-based media or traditional linear TV or traditional radio. Ashley's the opposite. So those are a lot harder to attribute actual transactions to and business outcomes to, as opposed to digital. Even something like connected TV, while not impossible, it's difficult, but you can still do it. But it's a much different methodology in trying to understand the impact of the media on the business outcomes that you want.
I guess even for a Resident, if you're trying to be everywhere at all times, like how do you really evaluate the channels that are leading to growth versus those that are just primarily reach-based?
So we, at Resident, we look at media twofold. We have core channels. Core channels for us are channels that are always on. They deliver good results, and we know how to measure them. Those are generally digital channels that deliver clicks to your site. We're good at that stuff. I'm sure a lot of people in this room are as well. Non-core channels, we consider, they may not be always on. They still may be impactful to the business, but they're largely impression-based channels. So that can be connected TV, linear TV, audio, display. Could be at a home, for instance. Those are ones where it's a lot more difficult to prove the impact of the media on the outcome you want. Now, we spend at Resident $300 million a year on media, something to that effect. Even if you get really, really granular with impression-based channels, and this is getting a little bit into the weeds, but if you get impression logs from platforms that will tell you, this is an impression on our platform, it's tied to this transaction on your site. Well, that's great, but a lot could have happened in between. So with impression-based channels, it's very difficult to actually prove that out unless you do sort of macro tests, like a match market test or a geo exclusion test, something to that effect. With click-based traffic that gets to your site, you can understand by identifying with first-party cookies and other techniques what other interactions occurred from that particular media for that particular person who wound up as a transaction. You can stitch that stuff together a lot easier. If you try to stitch in all these impression logs from impression-based platforms, there's going to be a natural overlap between the amount of media we spend, so the amount of impressions that are going to have, and the amount of transactions, and it's very, very difficult to prove that one actually caused the other.
So does that, and I know I'm kind of jumping between companies, almost feels like I'm interviewing two different people here, but for Ashley Stewart, or for Ashley Furniture, how is it with like all the brand stuff? How are you rolling that into the success metrics that maybe you've been used to before with Resonant?
It's really just trying to define the media mix and get as close to comfortable measuring it as possible. But it's really the same. It's the same principles, just applying it to media that is not as measurable as the media that we really, really try to focus on.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So then, I mean, going back to the success you've had in outgrowing competitors, I think where you've seen a lot of success is really prospecting.
Yes.
New customers, new buys. Every retailer, every brand really tries to focus some money that way. What's made you guys so successful in going after new customers, or where has that focus been?
It is a ruthless devotion to the metrics, the processes, the operations. You know, I think when I tell people what I do, and I say, "Hey, I'm in marketing," they say, "Oh, you're sitting around tables drinking scotch, you're coming up with the next great ideas." Well, not exactly. Now, creativity, of course, plays a role in that, but there is the operational component of marketing. It is understanding how algorithms work. It's having operational procedures in place. It's understanding when anomalies are happening. So we are a very data-centric organization. As I mentioned, we built a lot of our own tools, but we are looking and forecasting twice an hour where we're going to wind up that given day from an efficiency standpoint. Now, I'm not making adjustments, 12 times a day, because that would be silly. But at times of holidays, we are. I mean, holidays are really, really important to mattress and furniture. President's Day, which is coming up, Memorial Day, Labor Day, July 4th to a certain extent, of course, Black Friday, Cyber Monday. But just really understanding the predictability of the tools we built and forecasting how the impact on the business, it's an ongoing fine-tuning process. And I think that's really what sets us apart from a lot of people.
Well, I guess let's talk about that. For seasonality or anticipated kind of peaks and valleys, how do you use that to decide where to spend to drive even stronger results than you expect?
It depends on what we're trying to achieve. So there are times of the year when, especially during holidays or high intent months, where the money you spend just will work better because that's when people are buying mattresses. There's certain months when they're really not. March and October are pretty poor months. But in normal circumstances, I might pull back spend there. If I have a goal, we measure our success based on the cost of revenue as a percentage of our gross sales. Let's say it's 30% for argument's sake. In a month where I know that my money is not going to work as well as another month, I may ratchet that back 10% to say, hey, let's say 27%. So I'm saving some money so that I can really spend it when I know it's going to work the best. That's one way to do it. The other way, though, is qualitatively just understanding what's going on in the market. If the market is suffering, and for the past couple of years, home furnishings has suffered, mattresses have suffered, if we're suffering, we think competitors are suffering more, and we could take the tact where we could be inefficient just to keep pressure on some of those competitors, which we've done on occasion.
Okay. So if you see that, will you shift your goals to be a little bit more lenient, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, normally I would try and spend less in less performant months and save that money to spend more in the months that money works better. But if we think that certain things are going on in the industry or the market where it would be more advantageous, it would be short-term pain for us, a little bit, not huge, but more long-term gain for us, and that's something that we've looked at and done. Yeah.
Okay. So if you were to maybe give some advice to both, because now we covering brands and pretty big retailer, to optimize their media mix, improve attribution. What are some actionable steps you might take even today?
I would say get really comfortable with the core channels and platforms that you know are driving your business, and think about it concentric circles. For us, we go where the intent is. A lot of that is search. So we're really, really good at search, and then broaden it. What's outside of that? Paid social platforms out there, paid social platforms. They certainly know who is in the market for furniture or mattresses because of the information they have on their platform. That could be Circle 2. 3 could be connected TV or linear TV. But expanding it, get really, really comfortable building tools or using tools that when you assume something, that it's predictive and you actually get that result. I know we had this conversation the other day. If our tool, now with your own tools, you're an audience of 1, so that could be a problem. If you're using SaaS platforms and something breaks, you're probably going to hear about it in LinkedIn and Twitter, and your rep's going to reach out to you and say, "Oh, well, this is something that's going on." We're an audience of 1, so that could be a problem. On a forward-looking basis, if I'm using our tools to predict impact on our business and I don't achieve that impact, then something is probably wrong. Now, once, okay, take notice of it. 2, is that a pattern? 3, something's broken. So that's kind of the methodology that we employ.
Okay, I like that. All right, so taking a shift in a little bit of a different direction. Some technology vendor somehow let a brand person come work at their company for a little bit, and Jared was actually on the vendor side for a little while.
Yep.
Before going to resident. So how has that experience kind of helped you in your role now?
Yeah. So for 2 years prior to coming to resident, I spent some time at a company called Live Intent. You may not know the name, but if you open an email and there's a newsletter in there, chances are they're serving it. So it's a very ad tech heavy company. I knew very little about programmatic, very little about display, very little about operations, which I went there to help manage and run. But what I was tasked with doing was helping marketers use that platform in a way that is impactful to their business. So I really got to see under the hood with how marketing algorithms work, how I'm sure everybody has heard the terms learning mode and cold start, and you need enough budgets to have X% of transactions. You can really, if you don't understand that aspect of marketing, which is what I was alluding to before, it's the operations and the technicalities of marketing as opposed to coming up with the next greatest idea, with the next greatest celebrity for the next greatest product in the next greatest script or commercial. So it really broadened my horizon with respect to understanding the technological aspect of marketing. So it was something that was great for me, to be honest with you. Yeah.
Right. How about seeing other marketers? Because now you got to see all these other marketers and what they were doing with Live Intent. I'm sure some were using it in an amazing way, and some may have even been misusing the tool a little bit. Did that maybe help you evaluate vendors now in your new role?
You don't always know what's going on inside a company. I know what's going on inside of our company. I could make assumptions about what's going on when I was at Live Intent, what's going on inside of other companies, but you really don't know. I mean, there are certain principles and techniques that should be pretty straightforward and pretty sound with respect to marketing, but you still don't know what's going on. So, you can lead a horse to water. That was my philosophy at one point. But I had always been interested in getting back to the brand side of marketing. I had been doing it before I went to Live Intent for, I don't know, a couple decades. So I'd always been interested in getting back to that, but it was a very worthwhile journey for me to spend 2 years there.
Okay. I guess along the lines of crossover, but in a little bit of a different way. I know Nectar sells on Ashley.
Mm-hmm.
So do you get to see any interesting insights there? How the brand's doing, how competitors of the brand are doing, and maybe what might be driving sales one way or another?
Yeah, just hit stop on record for... No, okay. Yeah, I mean, of course, it's still unfolding. Like, it's still early days in terms of really, taking over spend, that's easy enough, but really understanding what's being sold in a store, in a region, in a DMA, based on the advertising, and what's floored and what's not floored and where it is in the floor, it's a whole other ballgame. But we are getting to that point. Yes, we are right there.
Okay. That's good. Yeah. And then I guess, you've been with the company for a little while now. What have you been most proud of on your side, on your team side? What have you guys done?
Oh, that's a good one. That wasn't in your pre-prep questions. Um, uh, I think what I am most proud of is our ability to do what we do with the amount of people we do it with. Um, we have a very high revenue per head count in our organization. It's intentional. We're pretty flat. Everybody is very hands-on. I build a lot of the dashboards myself. My team is free to execute the way that they want to execute in order to achieve the goals. So I think just the ability, let me preface that by saying it's very stressful. This is I'm saying it's a zero-sum game. I don't know if anybody's been in the mattress marketing space. It is nuts. The ability to roll with the punches, constantly react, and always come out on top. I'm looking for some wood here. I know that's not wood, but it'll do. We're proud of what we've built. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you've mentioned before you guys really had a lot of success by focusing on the business.
Yeah.
So that's what it sounds like. If
Oh yeah.
Really focused on revenue per employee,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
Okay. How about this year and beyond? What's something maybe that you're looking forward to, other than some savings off TikTok?
I think this year is the year that we're really going to try and focus at Resident on TV a little bit more, but in a non-traditional way. So actually going to try and spin up some long-form infomercials, which this may not be the right audience for that, but 28-minute infomercials supplemented with some shorter forms and whatnot. But because we've been on linear TV, but I can't say that we haven't got it to work. It's all relative. It's that last concentric circle. Now, if you think about what I mentioned, we try and focus where intent is. So we know people that are in market for a mattress because they're telling us they are on Google. If you advertise on linear TV, if a person buys a mattress, let's just say once every 5 years for ease of math, so that's 60 months, you would have to be on TV for 5 years in order to get in front of every person at one point in time that's buying a mattress. So for us, it was really keyed, our company, Resident, was really keyed to performance metrics. If we run a test for 2 or 3 months, which is a pretty long test for us, think about that. That's 3 months out of 60. Unless you have dumb luck then to be successful. And even if you did, that would not be predictive of the future. So we are trying to really understand the impact of TV in a more direct response way in 2025. But also, with respect to how you ladder up to some major events like President's Day, Labor Day, stuff like that.
Almost similar to like the auto industry a little
Yeah,
bit. Yeah.
very. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Maybe anybody has any questions?
I've worked with Sam's Club for years, and you mentioned this a few times. I was always fascinated by the fact that everything was attached to days with flags on them, like Labor Day, Memorial Day, 4th of July. With online and the changes there, have you seen any shift from that? You did mention that March and October are still down months for this, but why does that just remain the case? And have you played with trying to change that?
We have spent into down intent months, and that did not work well. So that's still the case. But the tentpole events are becoming more and more important for not only for us, but I think for every furniture and mattress retailer. I think people are, they're already conditioned to buy on those holidays to begin with, and now there's just so much emphasis on, Black Friday in July and Labor Day in October. Like there's everything's a sale at all points in time. So I think sometimes the messages, people are numb to them, but it's pretty clear when the actual behavior of buying changes. Yeah.
Hi, in terms of analytics and dashboards, how have you decided what to build in-house versus partner with vendors to deploy?
We are always open to working with vendors. The reason why we built our own internal multi-touch attribution tool is we did work with a vendor, and after months of making sure everything's tagged properly, data ingested properly, months and months of hard work, the grand outcome of that was your most impactful channel is display. And we know that's not the case. Now, There's a reason for that, though, because display is an impression-based channel. You can get a lot of cheap impressions. So if an attribution model is keyed on impressions, those with the most impressions are going to win. But we knew that that was very flawed. So we fine-tune our models and our tools for our business and our outcomes. That may not be the case for everybody. But we found that generally, we have found that building stuff ourselves is what's best. Now, we will supplement it with certain data enrichment, for example. But generally, we build things ourselves because we understand the impact on our business.
Hi. First thing I learned is that I am embarrassingly overdue for a new mattress.
So was I,
like
believe it or not.
really, really like scary. So got a coupon code. I'll find you afterwards. But the other thing is, you mentioned that search is where it drives the lion's share of the business, and it makes sense. And I think about I would search generic terms if I was looking for a mattress. And you mentioned also that you have Purple and Casper who have higher brand recognition. So what are some of the strategies as a marketer you do to get, when someone's searching for a mattress, they're low intent, they're high intent, low in the funnel, but they don't necessarily know your brands as much? What are some of the tactics that, are you outbidding? Or are you doing different things creatively with, AdWords,
All the above. Okay. Now search is easier because you know exactly what someone is searching for. We as a company like to go against the grain and swim against the stream, or whichever term you want to use. Now, a lot of days, if there's marketers in this room, you're being told to just give us the assets and press this button and don't worry about the rest. We'll take care of it. That doesn't work. We like to do the opposite. So with search, we get very, very granular and understand. You talk brand, you talk competitor, you talk generic terms. We have size terms, we have headboard terms, we have frame terms, all the above. Something like paid social, where a lot of it is creative driven, you don't necessarily know who is going to, what creative is going to, or even creative type is going to resonate with what person at a given point in time. It could be someone who was on the doorstep and all they need to see is a very simple static image that says, this is the best mattress, buy it, 50% off. Great. That's very different than maybe needing a very polished video, which can run on paid social. Those, think about the ones that are on TV. Or UGC or influencer type creative, which is maybe you will identify with the person you're seeing in that video and say, hey, maybe I wasn't really in the market for a mattress, but I kind of look like them. They kind of talk like me. So maybe that'll get me to explore it a little bit. But there's no formula. There's no set formula. If there was, everyone would be doing it.
All right. I think that's going to wrap up our session. Thank you so much. Really informative. Really appreciate your time.